Thanks for staying with us. 2 men died in a horrific car crash at the airport roundabout in Montego Bay, St. James this morning. As we hear in this report from Irvin Forbes, 2 other men were left fighting for life. First, we caution that some of the information may be unsettling.
Not the kind of welcome anyone would want to see to Montego Bay or anywhere else. Damage caused by an out-of-control Nissan Tida. Reports are that shortly after 6, the Tida sedan with 4 men aboard was heading towards downtown Montego Bay. The driver allegedly lost control of the car. The debris on a section of the road after Friday evening's heavy rain may hold a clue. A tragic turn of events unfolded.
As I come around, I hear a break up. Same time I hear a break up, realize a vehicle lick a signpost, lick a wall and flip, turn over, flash out 2 bodies on the side, 1 in the road, and then go across the embankment and stop.
On arrival, we observe a Nissan Tida silver hatchback motor car that was involved in the accident with 4 occupants. 2 were found on the ground, appear to be deceased, and the other 2 were taken to the hospital by our ambulance and the CRH ambulance.
25-year-old Sheldon Hilton and O'Dane Smith, both of Bamboo Lawn Lilliput in the parish, were killed. Sheldon was employed to Holiday Inn Resort. Responders, onlookers, and bereaved loved ones gathered at a place associated with traveling into and out of the country. Some marveled at the path the car traveled after the driver lost control. It's the second horrific accident in the area recently. Whether wet or dry, there's another admonition for motorists to be careful on the road. Irvin Forbes, CVM Live.
Meanwhile, there is still grieving in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, over the death of the parish councillor for the Homestead Division, Owen Palmer. He died last weekend in a road accident. Colleague councillors and other friends and supporters gathered for a vigil this week. Our news team spoke with one of the persons who were in the ill-fated vehicle driven by the councillor.
Well, the vehicle get out of control, and first thing came to mind was hold onto the seat. I when the vehicle on the top, hold onto the seat. Vehicle jump that gully over there, the canal over there, land right here on the top. I'm still holding on to the seat now, let it go. That saved me. I don't know when the other 2 persons from beside me fly out of the van, I don't know when.
Mr. Suarez also responded to speculations arising from a video which was circulated showing what appeared to be alcoholic drink bottles at the scene of the crash.
We wasn't drinking any rum. The council drink nothing at all, just water.
Where are those rum bottles?
Right here, in the rubbish. Sealer, see that? Right here in the garbage. We didn't drink no rum at all. On the party, we not even drink rum.
In a follow-up to a late-breaking report last evening on flooding in St. James, various areas in Montego Bay were affected by flash flooding on Friday evening after heavy showers lashed the parish. Despite the apparent danger, several motorists still attempted to brave the waters, but the roadway in a number of places was rendered impassable. A security guard at Cornwall College recounts what he saw unfolding.
Yeah, man, I want to rain, man. It's when I come way up plus, man. Way up plus. Water the way up plus. Last night, nobody could walk come through in a day. At the gate, now to swing come around, man. So just imagine the water was at the wall there. You can see where the water was, you know. The water can't go up this way, you know. The water can't go this way. So the water was all the way up where your vehicle was, coming all the way back. So I dry now.
He says drivers were told to take an alternative route when it began to rain, but they refused to comply. In the meantime, the People's National Party is calling on the government to protect the people and businesses in Montego Bay as flood waters ravage the city for the 2nd time in months. The Shadow Minister of Local Government, Angela Brown-Burke, says if the government had taken its responsibility seriously, necessary actions would have been taken to ensure that the drains were cleaned and flood mitigation systems would have been put in place. She says what is also urgently needed is enforcement of anti-litter and other regulations from both the Parks and Market Company and the St. James Municipal Corporation. Government spokespersons have said that this flooding was not the result of blocked drains. The Vice President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, Gary Hendrickson, is calling for the government to take a serious look at major sectors to help ensure economic growth. CVM Live's Khadija Thomas has more.
Citing issues within the agricultural, banking and manufacturing sector, the Vice President of the PSOJ, Gary Hendrickson, says existing disparities are crippling the country's progress.
But out of the agricultural community, we have agro-processing. And Grace has expanded it. If you ask already, Don, what's holding your supply? Not market, not the ability to manufacture and control. Supply. And this is where we need to look towards. And the government itself and the private sector, the leadership of the private sector, is asking that question. We need to have that. We need to have that conversation. We can leave it on the table. You must not allow them to sweep it under the rug. They will do it.
Hendrickson, who was giving the address at the Lions Club of Kingston meeting at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel recently, says there will be risk within these primary sectors, but we must ask ourselves, how can we create a better society?
We have failed the country. And what we didn't do is stand up and say what needed to be said. Whether it was nice, popular, as long as it's truth, who cares? Who cares? And then you have the inequities. Then you have this growing disparity. But you can't ask people to slow down and do nothing. What you must do is get everybody else to catch up and run past it if it's possible. That's the whole idea. You need more people in the race. The one-man show, bad business.
He says financial support is also needed for small businesses, which need guidance to be able to thrive within this economy. Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
The parents of Franz Nooks, the 25-year-old man who was fatally stabbed by a taxi operator in February, are speaking out about the incident. CVM Live's Nicole Wilson has our report.
That is Robert Nooks as he listens to his favorite song by his now-deceased son Franz titled This Is For The Kids. Allegations are that Franz was fatally stabbed by a taxi operator on February 6 after refusing to pay an additional $100 for his fare. Described by many as humble, loving, grateful and health-conscious, Franz's mother Natalie Douglas said her son had aspirations, among them to become one of the best African-centered entertainers.
To become one of the best African-centered entertainer, to help his family, to just create.
Miss Douglas, who lives overseas, says Franz looked up to reggae legend Bob Marley, and she was told that he was on his way to the icon's birthday celebrations when he was killed. His mother is finding it hard to cope with his death and lamented the crime situation in Jamaica.
This is very hard because the way Franz was killed was gruesome, horrible, unforgivable for me, unforgettable. We need help in this country when crime is concerned.
Mr. Nooks says he learnt of his son's passing while he was at work in Trelawney, but swiftly made his way to Kingston. He says what happened to his son is a typical scenario of individuals taking the law into their own hands.
Asking for fare that was not due to him by law, but he take that responsibility to change the fare structure to his liking.
He also has a message to individuals who choose to live a life of crime.
Just think about your brother and think about your sister. Crime is not the way. Killing is not the way.
Nicole Wilson, CVM Live.
Journalism is under attack from all angles. Well, that's a statement from the United States Agency for International Development Director of Government Strategy and Relations. CVM Live's Khadija Thomas has more.
According to the director, Robert Underwood, the rise of fake news has made it incredibly difficult for reporters to gather and present information. He says this has led listeners, readers and viewers to search for quality and credible sources.
Journalists feel under pressure. They feel that the government itself is actually now making it difficult for them to do their jobs. And in times like this, it's often the local journalists that we most rely on for our news, not the big media networks, not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, not CNN, but often the local newspapers, and you're finding people now turning to local sources of news and media.
Underwood was speaking at the ceremony for 28 residents who successfully completed the USAID community journalism training in Linstead, St. Catherine. He says these persons have now become the eyes and ears of the community. Meanwhile, host of CVM at Sunrise, Raymond Price, lauded USAID for its technical and financial support and made an announcement to the participants.
You will send in to the production team an article, a video of the Vox Pop, a story. Photographs are also important ways to tell stories. And when you send that in, the production team will review it. One will be selected, and the person who is behind it will have an opportunity, as you did today, to speak to your peers. You'll have an opportunity to speak to your nation about why that story was important to you.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
The Health Minister, Christopher Tufton, says public health information on non-communicable diseases should be available and accessible to citizens. He was speaking at the annual review of the National Non-Communicable Disease Prevention and Control Program at the Mona Visitors Lodge recently. Dr. Tufton says that having this information will make it easier for the public and healthcare workers to make better decisions concerning well-being.
In public health, we have to build a credible story. A story backed by facts, supported by the data, when we make our claims as to why things need to change. And all the relevant stakeholders, starting with the individual, with you and I, with the people we're talking to out there, with the policymakers within institutions, the NGOs who have to seek support through funding and partnerships. The success of that is a function of the extent to which we use the data. We collect it, we analyze it, and we use it to inform and support the positions that we take.
Dr. Tufton called on public health workers to be more practical in using the data collected on non-communicable diseases.
But I think there's sometimes too much of a lag effect between when things happen and when that information is collected and disseminated in a meaningful form. And we've been trying in the Ministry of Health to be more proactive in delivering data. We launched our Vitals, which is a quarterly to be made a semi-annual publication. And that data basically is intended to provide the country with information on the state of public health, including various issues, various challenges, but including the NCD challenge that we have.
He said that public health workers must be proactive, as there might be a credibility problem if the public does not believe what the government is promoting. This is CVM Live. Let's go to a break ahead of news from overseas.